It doesn't happen all at once. There's no moment you can point to and say, something ended here. No sound, no signal, no clear break, just a quiet shift. One day, there are two bodies moving through the same space, two sets of footsteps, two rhythms, two presences, woven into the same environment. They pass each other, pause near each other, sleep within reach of each other, without needing to think about it. It just exists. And then one day, without explanation, there is only one. The house doesn't change. Nothing looks different. The same light falls through the same window. The same floor holds the same warmth. The same corners still exist. But something invisible is gone. Not loudly, not dramatically, just missing. And your cat continues. It walks the same paths, stops in the same places, but sometimes it hesitates. Not long enough for you to notice easily, just long enough for something inside it to register that the world is no longer exactly what it was. And if you're not watching carefully, you'll miss it, because grief, for a cat, doesn't announce itself. It hides inside what looks like normal. Most people believe cats don't feel loss the way we do, that they're independent, self-contained, unaffected by absence, that when another animal disappears, they simply adjust, move on, forget. But what if that's not what's happening at all? What if your cat doesn't show grief because it doesn't have a way to express it outwardly? What if it experiences it somewhere else entirely? Not in behavior you can easily see, but in the quiet way it moves through a world that no longer feels complete. And if that's true, then most people don't miss their cat's grief because it isn't there. They miss it because they're looking for the wrong kind of signal. Your cat does not understand death. It doesn't think. They're gone forever. They won't come back. There is no concept of finality, no narrative of loss. Instead, your cat experiences something much more immediate. A break in expectation. A scent that used to exist no longer does. A presence that used to occupy space is no longer there. A rhythm that used to repeat has stopped. And for an animal that relies on patterns to feel safe, this matters more than meaning. Because your cat doesn't need to understand why something is gone. It only needs to feel that the world no longer behaves the way it used to, and that is where its grief begins. The world stops matching what they expect. Your cat walks into a room, a place it has entered hundreds of times before, a place where something used to be, another body, another scent, another quiet presence, and for a fraction of a second, its brain does what it always does. It expects that presence to still exist, but it doesn't. And nothing explains that absence. There is no signal, no event, no understanding, only a mismatch. Your cat is not remembering the one it lost. It is encountering a world that no longer behaves correctly. And that creates something subtle, persiste, a quiet uncertainty. What it feels like, not sadness in the human sense, but something closer to, something should be here, and it isn't. And because that expectation repeats, every time your cat enters that space, the absence doesn't happen once. It happens again, and again, and again. The scent doesn't disappear, it fades. To you, loss is immediate. To your cat, it lingers, because scent doesn't vanish instantly. It stays, on blankets, on corners, on surfaces you don't even think about, and slowly, it fades. Your cat doesn't experience one moment of loss. It experiences a gradual disappearance, and that makes everything more confusing, because for a while, the other cat is still there. Not fully, but not completely gone either. What your cat experiences, a presence that weakens over time. Each day, less scent, less familiarity, less trace, until one day, without a clear moment, it's gone. And that's the hardest part, because there is no clear ending, only a slow erasing. The routine breaks without breaking. Nothing dramatic changes. You still feed your cat. The house still follows the same schedule. But something underneath that routine is no longer aligned. Before, two bodies moving through the same timing, eating near each other, sleeping within proximity, crossing paths without thinking. Now only one. And yet, The routine continues. The structure remains. But the meaning inside it shifts. And your cat feels that. Not consciously, but physically. What that looks like. Eating slightly slower. Sleeping in different places. Pausing where it didn't pause before. Small changes, but constant. Because routine is not just action. It is shared presence over time. And when that presence disappears, the routine doesn't collapse. It becomes incomplete. Some move closer, some disappear into themselves. After loss, your cat changes, but not always in the way you expect. Some cats move closer to you. They follow you more, sit near you more, stay within your space longer than before. Others do the opposite. They withdraw, sleep more, avoid interaction. Both are responses to the same thing, a world that no longer feels balanced. And your cat is trying to solve that imbalance. Not emotionally, but structurally. Moving closer means, you are now my most stable reference point. Moving away means, I need to reduce stimulation to feel safe again. Neither is rejection. Neither is replacement. Both are adaptation. They are not replacing, they are rebuilding stability. From the outside, it can look like your cat moved on. It starts eating normally again, sleeping normally again, even interacting normally again. And you think, it's okay now. But internally, something has shifted permanently. Your cat didn't replace the one it lost. It reorganized its environment to function again. That means, if it comes closer to you, it's not because it forgot. It's because you are now the most predictable part of its world. And predictability is what keeps it grounded. Your presence carries more weight than before. After loss, your role changes, even if you don't notice it. Before, you were part of a shared system. Now, you are the center of what remains stable. Your presence is no longer optional. It becomes structural, what your cat needs. Not more attention, not more effort, but consistency, calm, predictable interaction. Because in a world that changed without explanation, you are the only thing that still behaves the same way. The grief doesn't leave, it becomes quiet. Your cat will adjust. It will move through the house again, eat again, sleep again. Everything will look normal. But something subtle remains. A pause that wasn't there before. A space that is never quite used the same way. A silence, where something used to exist. Your cat does not forget. It absorbs the loss into its new reality. And that reality is just slightly quieter, slightly emptier, in a way that never fully disappears. To you, loss is something you remember. To your cat, the loss is something it lives inside, every day, in every space, in every quiet moment, not as sadness, not as memory, but as something that used to be there and isn't anymore. And in that space, your cat continues, not because it doesn't feel, but because it has no other choice. And maybe that's what makes it so quiet. Your cat doesn't grieve the way you do. But that doesn't mean it doesn't grieve. It just does it, without noise, without explanation, without asking for comfort. And if you're not looking closely, you might never see it at all. If your cat has ever lost a companion, and take a moment, and look again, not for obvious signs, but for the quiet ones. Because sometimes, the deepest emotions are the ones that make the least sound.